The very first time? Thank you so much, darling. Right? It's the first time for today. Grand Risings, everyone. Yes. How many people are here for the very first time today? And in this space for the very first time, thank you so much for coming and joining us. Girl, sisterin, I'm so excited to see you. She just relocated. We're so excited to see Chelsea. All of us that are jumping up and down on the family chat, just really excited to see her. Our mission here at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala is that we embody and share truth principles and spiritual practices that empower us to awaken to the power and presence that lies within us, all around us, so we may facilitate spiritual healing and the elevation of our individual and collective consciousness. There's a lot of work in there, y'all, a lot of individual and collective work that happens. And so today we're going to be talking about that mission. And our vision is that we are a thriving New Thought community dedicated to spiritual growth and practice, sacred activism, and the transformative love that reveals our interconnectedness and our oneness. Sacred activism is the intersection of consciousness and action. It is a place where prayer and service activates love, and spiritual principles become lived practice. Sacred activism is how we show up as a beneficial presence in the world, when we leave it a little better than we found it. I'm all about that. Being a little better every day, improving every day. And our values, if this ring true for you, I invite you to say them with me. Wholeness of spirit, spiritual and personal growth, collaborative, synergistic community, abundance and prosperity, love and compassion, appreciation and gratitude, peace and balance, power of freedom, diversity and inclusion, and generosity. Thank you so much. And at this time, I invite you now, as we step into our spiritual mind treatment, affirmative prayer. I like this form of praying because it gave me the most hope than supplication or any other kind of prayer I had learned in the past. And that is why I adapted this prayer, and here at Center for Spiritual Living, this is the prayer that we do. For those who just finished foundations, they have been practicing this prayer, and for those who have been in this teaching for a while. So I invite you now to just kind of get settled. Let gravity hold you where you are. Uncross your legs if that feels comfortable. Allow your energy to flow through your blood, to just move through your form. Allow your breath to just come to you naturally. If you'd like to take a deep breath, don't forget that in order to receive that breath, you need to empty your vessel first. Empty fully. Receive the breath. Empty fully. Receive the breath. Empty fully. Receive the breath. Breathe regularly, and whatever comes beautifully to your body. Just knowing that as we are all sitting in this space, this building, this moment in time, I recognize the allness. I call this allness God, the word from my youth that is the all-encompassing of the divine. This essence that is divine energy exists in and through and around all things. It is the light, the dark, the in, the out, the up, the down, the seeming opposites, but not the opposite. It is the same, but yet different. I recognize the allness. And since I am sitting in this seat today, in this moment in time, I am acknowledging that I too am a part of that allness. Breathing air, expelling from my lungs, my heartbeat, my blood rushing in my veins. This thing that is the symbiotic union between my breath and the trees outside, I am a part of that which is. I know if it's true for me, it's true for everyone else that's in this room, everyone else that has ever existed, that shall exist. We are all a part of that which is the oneness, living and moving and having its beingness, experiencing life, loving, laughing, learning, remembering. It is this realization that brings me to this moment, knowing that my life is unfolding beautifully and with ease and grace. I know that that is happening for me, and if it is happening for me, it is happening all over the planet right now. The peace that passes all understanding is mine right now. I am grateful for knowing that this symbiotic movement within the universe is balanced, and I am one with that which is. I'm so grateful for my breath. Receive the breath. I release it now, knowing that it's already done. And so it is. Amen. Ashe. Blessed love, everyone. I wrap my crown because sometimes the information is too much and the stimulation is too much. I take my shoes off so I may remember that I'm in this body. And for those of us who practice these things, these indigenous ways, I honor you and salute you. And Cindy, thank you so much for being a beacon of hope and light in this world. Reverend Cindy Grimes, our divine inspirator, as she comes up here and shares with us, spirit moving through her. Thank you so much. Everybody, Cindy Grimes.
Thank you, Donna. How you like my big comfy chair? I like it too. Who's the character that does the big comfy chair? Some of y'all with kids know. The big comfy couch, that's it. It's not a chair. Jeez. Look, my feet swing back and forth. Anyway, good morning, everyone, and welcome, especially to our first-time visitors. Every week here at the center is different, and the fourth Sunday of the month, I really want to dedicate, I got to stand up. I want to dedicate to this idea of being the beloved community. How many of y'all feel like we need that in this time? Right? We need lots of beloved communities and people who understand that whole concept and what that's about. So let me just, some of this will be review, hopefully, and for some of you, you'll be hearing it for the first time, but excited to get us going right now. So here we go. What is the beloved community? What are the aspects of this thing that became popularized with Martin Luther King? And the first thing is inclusivity and respect. And you can see that when you look around here, that's part of our values as well, right? That we are an inclusive community and that we have respect for everyone, that we appreciate diversity. So it's a place where people from all different backgrounds are valued and respected. And then we have this idea of social justice, and that there is an equitable distribution of resources and opportunity. Everyone has access to the same basic necessities. Like, wouldn't that be wonderful, right? For like the whole world, that to know that people are fed and that people have shelter, a place to live, right? Like the basics that we all want for ourselves and for others. Peace and nonviolence, which is the part I'm going to focus on today. That nonviolence is embraced as our approach to social change. Love and compassion is also part of our guiding principles, you know, our values, as Donna shared with us, that love and compassion guide the interactions between people with the purpose of fostering understanding and reconciliation. And then the fact that we're interdependent. You know, that is at the core of this teaching that we call the science of mind. That's also what we teach at Centers for Spiritual Living. All of that is the idea that God is all there is, which means that each and every one of us are the expression of the divine. That's the core of what we teach. And so in the beloved community, we're recognizing that all of life is interconnected and that the well-being of the one is inextricably connected to the well-being of all. Right. Godlings. Somebody here, yes, used to call us godlings. It was probably Nick, it was probably Nick. Yes, here's one of our folks who've been, how long have you been coming here, Cheryl? 20 years. I think it's longer than that, but we'll let you go at 20 years. So systemic change then is a function of individual transformation, active engagement, and commitment to justice and reconciliation. So it starts here. The beloved community starts in each and every one of us, inside of us. So it takes us transforming ourselves so that we can see the changes outside of us. Does that make sense for everybody? So that's the basics of what we mean when we say the beloved community. And then the information that I'm sharing with you today is part of the work that I have done outside of the center. It's also very important connection because for me it's always been an outreach of Centers for Spiritual Living. And so I have a separate 501c3 called Circle Up that teaches practical peace building, right? We're Circle Up Center for Practical Peace Building. I'm not talking about trying to broker peace in the Middle East. God knows how many people have tried to do that and what we're seeing is happening now. But we're talking about peace like within ourselves and as it ripples out, right, into our next, ring of relationships, right? Your intimate people, your children, your family, and then the people who are close to you, your good friends, and the people you work with, and your neighborhood. So it keeps on rippling out. That's the idea with Circle Up. So our vision is that we envision safe, thriving communities where all feel valued, seen, and heard. And our mission is to promote and teach best peace-building practices for facilitating connection, for building community, and transforming conflict into opportunities for greater understanding and constructive outcomes. So last time we were together, I can't believe it was a month ago. Somehow it feels like yesterday, but then it also feels like eons. Does anyone like a lot of things happening in a short period of time for anybody else? Like time is in this really weird kind of warped space. Yeah, yes, the construct of time. So we talked about last time the idea of the paradigm shift. How many of you were here? The last time when I talked about, you might remember the paradigm of the, what was it? The Great Manure Crisis of the 1890s. That was the story I shared. Okay? When we went, exactly, we made the switch from horses to cars. Right? And there was, at the time that switch was happening, there was a conference, an international conference, where folks were talking about what do we do about the rising levels of manure, like literally in the cities. And they threw up their hands after 10 days and said, we're just in deep doo-doo. There's nothing we can do about it. And of course, we know that didn't happen because of the advent of the automobile, right? Isn't that amazing? Now, the thing is that the automobile was there already, as people were feeling like we were in crisis. And the change was not better storage of manure. It was not what else can we do with it. It was a complete, utter, radical shift to a whole other way of being that made the other way obsolete. Now this can happen, paradigm shifts happen to us on the macro and also in the microcosm. And when we do a workshop, like an actual workshop, and I'm going to be offering these in the fall, we'll do some exercises so you can get in touch with this idea. But on a personal one that probably every one of us have experienced a paradigm shift is if you ever learn how to ride a bike. Can anyone ride a bike? Okay, great. So you know that when you learned how to ride that bike and you got balance, everything changed, right? My whole world changed when I learned how to ride a bike. Because my world went from my backyard to now I can ride to my friend's house. Now I don't have to I still have to get permission from my parents, but they didn't have to take me. So a whole world changed. And guess what? I haven't ridden a bike in I don't even know how many years, but I feel pretty sure that I could get on one and still have balance. Do y'all feel the same way? You don't think you could? But the thing is that once that shift is made, everything changes, right? So learning how to ride that bike changed everything for me. For some folks, I think it's the moment that they come out, that they realize and acknowledge who they are, right, as homosexual or lesbian, and your whole world would change. Is that accurate? That's right? So that's a paradigm shift. So what happens is like your whole idea of what the world is and what is possible for you can shift in that moment. And this is the time that we are in. We're in times of great, great transitions, and there are paradigms that are shifting all the time, both personally and collectively. And I want to say too that when your paradigm shifts, sometimes it can be stressful, right? You can feel like your world is maybe falling apart because the things you believe to be so maybe are not, or it's not what you thought it was. The people are not the people you thought they were. I'm seeing some head nodding. Are we feeling some of that going on? So we're all in it, right? We're in this time of paradigm shifting. And what we know in this teaching, what we teach is that we are conscious creators. So we know that change is happening all the time, but how do we do it in a way that we're kind of, grabbing all this crazy and bringing it together, like focalizing it? Does that make sense? Right? So we can do it from a knowing, conscious place. Understand that we are all going through shifts right now, and it's a really difficult time for a lot of folks. I would say more difficult, yeah. Anyway, let's let that go. Okay, so here's a paradigm shift that we're talking about in this idea of the peace building. And that is, what if no one and nothing is against you? Do you think the paradigm shifts for the right? For the chicken when it comes out of the egg? Do you think their life is a little different? Or the butterfly coming out of the cocoon? The baby coming out of the womb? All of these things are those paradigm shifts. So here's a shift. I know that there are a lot of us, and I still can get in that mode once in a while, of feeling like, why me? Anybody else ever feel like a victim? Like, why is this happening again? Does life just hate me? Like once in a while, I can still go to that place. I don't stay there very long, but it does still happen. We can visit. Exactly. We visit, but we don't stay. So, but what if no one and nothing is actually against you and never has been? What if life, the universe, whatever you want to call it, is actually conspiring on your behalf? It's a big question. Isn't that an interesting? Right? Then you would take the things that are happening, the challenges that are in front of you, and see, what's in this for me? Right? What possible good can come out of this situation? And that's what I'm inviting everyone to do with all of the challenges that you're facing, right? Is to spin it, to think about it and say, okay, what good can come out of this? What can I learn? How can I grow? How can I make things better for the people around me? We can do that with all of our challenges. And so here's the idea about conflict. Then rather than being dangerous, conflict holds within it vital messages regarding unmet needs and areas of necessary change. Given this understanding, safety is increased not by avoiding the conflict, but by moving toward it with the intention of hearing the messages within. Now that's a whole big mouthful also, and that statement is by Dominic Barter, who is one of the fathers of the restorative justice movement. And I don't know about you, but I came up in a home and in a culture in a way that was like, you don't get into conflict, right? I still get butterflies at the idea of confronting someone or that there's a conflict. I'm seeing some head nodding. Yeah. So when you hear this, the idea of going toward the conflict rather than putting up the isolation, the dividers, right? Does that make anybody else's stomach a little queasy? Okay, it makes you sick, right? All right, so I want to ease you into this. I want to ease you in as I've been eased into this idea that there is treasure, there is potential treasure in these things that are bumping up against our comfort zones, these conflicts. And we don't just go into them willy-nilly. Okay, again, this is a review. If you were here last time, you saw this same slide here. Because I love first responders. I'm married to a first responder. I come from a family of police officers. I highly respect all of those people who go toward danger while everyone else is running the other way and try to help other people, right? I mean, I've been the one with my family, the hurricane is hitting, and my husband has to go out and help take care of other people's families. That's the sacrifice that people make, right? For our folks that are out there mixing it up in the world. So our firefighters, though, you know, they go toward the danger. They're going toward the fire. And if they've done their job well, they're bringing some people out on the other side along with them. Not only are they safe, but other folks are safe too. Yes? But now you see that the firefighter is not dressed like you and me. Right? The firefighter has got what? What's different? He's got his gear. He's got his here. He's got his compassion. He's got what? Courage. Yes, he's got courage. He's got training. Yes, all of those things are necessary so that that person can do what it is that is theirs to do and bring people along. So this is what I'm inviting, is that the things that I'm teaching through this peace building idea is the equipment, it's the gear, it's the training, it's what you will need to go into the conflicts, the things that are happening in your life, do what needs to be done, and come out on the other side better, stronger, wiser, more connected. Make sense? All right, awesome, awesome. So we're all on the same page, right? Okay, so how do we do that? How do we move into it? This is part of that training. And the core principle of it is something called social emotional intelligence. Now, how many of you know that term? You've heard that term. Okay, so we know that there's lots of different kinds of intelligence. There are people who are intelligent for math. There are people who are intelligent for spatial things and directions. There are people who are people persons, who understand themselves and understand other people. That's the realm of social emotional intelligence. And so the emotional part of it is our ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions. How many of you could use that? Yes. Now, I'm going to take a deep dive into the emotional aspect of this next time we come together. I think I'm going to do it the first Sunday of next month. So your own personal self-management, recognition and self-management. The second part is the ability to recognize, understand, and influence others. Now, you know we are all influencing other people. Every time you walk in a room, you have an influence, whether you realize it or not. Some of us are trying to keep ourselves real small. Some of us come in big and bright, like you know they're there. And I might have said this one before, but I'll say it again. Everyone can bring joy to a room, right? Someone they enter, someone they leave. Who do you choose to be? Who do you choose to be? And how do you do that consciously, awarely? So, how many of you have seen this slide before? Because I've done this multiple times. Okay, but only because you've done the class before. So the iceberg of human complexity, How much of the iceberg is above the water, would you say, percent-wise? Pretty little. Anyone? How much? 5%? Any other numbers? 1/3? Huh? Above, yeah. So we're going to say about 15%. Bingo, we got an answer, 15%. That's my understanding, is 15%. So if you think about a human being, what is the stuff that we see that's readily observable for people? The 15% that we see. Obviously what you look like, right? The outer stuff. But the behavior. Right? Behavior is what we can see of other people, what they do, right? We can't see the stuff that's now what's underneath it? What's underneath the behavior, do you think? What's in that 85% that we're not seeing? Feelings. Yes, feelings. What else might we be seeing? Trauma. Experiences. Yes. Perception. All of those things. What's that? Conditioning, absolutely, conditioning. So I just put it under all of these things, right? Needs, their feelings, their values, and their experiences. You can't see that of anybody else. No one can see yours. All we see is a person's outward behavior, correct? So, and you know that there's all of this other stuff going on that is really the driver of all of that. So we're going to do a little exercise here. I'd like you should all have the handout. You should have two handouts. One of them has universal needs on it. Everybody should have two. One says universal needs. What? The shorter list is the needs list. Okay, sorry. The one-sided one. Sorry about that. Needs inventory. It says needs inventory. So the one that is one-sided, the needs inventory. I'd like you to take a look at this list here, and maybe pick out 2 or 3 of those needs that right now are being met for you. That are being met. Yes, needs inventory. Look at the needs. What's that?
Can you define right now?
As you're sitting here in the room.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meaning immediately.
Yeah, in this moment. Yes, in this moment. Yeah, 2 or 3. Just pick 2 or 3. No, this is right now the need is met for you. This is okay, let me go back if I haven't explained this properly. This is a list of universal needs. So by universal, it means that these are the needs that we all have as human beings. It doesn't matter your age, your ethnicity, the amount of money you have. These are the things that are common to all human beings. All human beings have these needs, okay? No matter what side of the tracks you're from, if you're a human being, remember we are spiritual beings having a human experience. I'm asking you right now to look at the list and pull out some of these needs that are being met for you in this moment. Okay. Uh-huh. All right, let's get some answers. Y'all shout some out. Acceptance, and I'll repeat it rather than sending the mic. So acceptance, joy, any other needs being met right now for you? Belonging, community. What's that? Community. Safety, self-expression, support, inclusion, learning, nurturing, companionship. Awesome. See and be seen. What else? Consistency. Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right. Now I'd like you to take the list that says feelings inventory. It is a 2-sided list. And the one side says feelings when your needs are satisfied. And it starts with affectionate, and then it goes to engaged, hopeful, etc., etc. So when your needs are satisfied, circle a couple of those. Yes, that you're feeling now. I didn't know if you had them or not. All right. Anyone want to yell out some of those feelings? Dazzled. Love it. Stimulated. Involved. What was that? I missed one. Open. Empowered. Expectant. Friendly. Appreciative. Eager. Safe. Thankful. Alert. Excellent, excellent. All right, so you see when your needs are met, you feel a certain kind of way. Now go back to the needs list, and I'd like you to find a couple of those universal needs that are not being met or that you would like more of in your life. Not being met. couple of those universal needs that are not being met or you would like more of. Or that you would like more of in your life. All right, anybody want to yell out any of those? Intimacy, to understand and be understood. Communication, stability, authenticity, spontaneity, consistency, self-respect, consistency, security, what is acceptance, contribution. All right. Empathy. Okay. All right. Now you're going to do the same thing you did with the first part, except you're going to look at the feelings when your needs are not being met. God bless you. And I'm surprised no one said sleep. Usually people say sleep and exercise. Yeah. Gotcha. Yes. Well, geez, I don't know, but they sound pretty close. Now, I will tell you, there are lots of lists like this. This is probably my favorite one because it comes from Center for Nonviolent Communication that has been doing this work for a long time. If you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, any of you remember that? Right? Where you've got all of your basic creature comforts at the bottom. You know, food, shelter, water, clean water, air, all of that. Then we have our belonging needs, and then we have our achievement needs, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Yeah, so it's the back list, it's the back side, right? Remember that was a two-sided list with the feelings? So feelings when feelings when your needs are not satisfied. When your needs are not satisfied, it's on the back. It says it at the top. Feelings when your needs are not satisfied. This one. It's this. You're on the right side. There, feelings when needs are not satisfied. You need another set? All right, would anyone like to share out some of those feelings when your needs are not satisfied? Wistful? Disappointed? Sensitive? What? Guarded? Torn? Wrong list. When your needs are not being met. Discouraged? Resentful? Mistrustful? Guilty? What? Unnerved? Exhausted? Hopeless? With John? Overwhelmed? Worn out? Helpless? Worried? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I just heard it's depressing. It's depressing. But here's the thing, right? Here's the contrast, and understand that this is what human beings, what we all go through. Do you remember the commercial, and it might still be out, of the person who gets hangry? Anybody else get hangry? They're like a whole other person before they have their Snickers bar or whatever it is, or their cup of coffee, or coffee. You see? You know, and this is part of knowing ourselves and knowing other people, right? You know that sometimes, and I'm married to one that gets hangry. And even the kids know, we laugh about it. Papa needs to eat something now so that he can get in a better mood again because he gets crabby. And he knows that. He knows that too. So he has to set himself aside till he can take care of his tummy, and then he can not be crabby anymore. Or make sure, this is the person at work that has to have their cup of coffee. So you let them have their cup of coffee. You don't mess with them until they've had their coffee or they've had their nap or their whatever it is that they need, right? I mean, that to me, that's people smarts. That's just being smart about knowing the people around you and what their needs are. So all of us are walking around like we're these icebergs, and you see how people show up in the world, their behavior, but there's all this other stuff that's driving it. Oh, here's the feelings inventory. Sorry about that. So feelings when your needs are met, and then feelings when your needs are not met. And you see the lists are very different. When your needs are met, affection, hope, confidence, engaged, inspired, exhilarated, peaceful, all that great stuff. And when your needs are not met, we go to angry, annoyed, afraid, confused, disconnected, pain, sad, vulnerable. Very, very different kinds of lists. But here we are, all of us human beings, all of us spiritual beings having this human experience that have all of this stuff going on with us, inside of us. So here's the bottom line. Needs drive your feelings, which then drive behavior. Make sense? It's a pretty straight line. Needs drive behavior. So regardless of our many differences, and we know that we have many, many differences as human beings, we all have the same needs. What differs is our strategy for getting those needs met. Everybody's trying to get their needs met. It's how we do it that makes the difference in how we show up in the world and how people perceive us, and whether we end up in a university or we end up in prison. Right? These are people that are trying to get their needs met, as we all are. So our behavior is our strategies, and that's from Marshall Rosenberg, who came up with this whole concept of the nonviolent communication. So any questions, comments yet? Do you want to say anything here? Yes. 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 Sure. So, right. So I should have had you on a mic so that people, because we're recording at the same time, so I want people to hear what you're saying. And basically, just to paraphrase maybe, that the peace is easy when you're by yourself or before you turn on the TV or you walk into an experience like this and there's like-minded people. But then when you do get out in the world and it's a hot mess and you hear all of the news and what's going on, that it's much harder to keep the peace. Is that essentially what you said? Okay. Yeah, and that's a fact. That's a fact. But that's why we start with ourselves, and how do we become that peace that we want to see regardless of what's happening in the world, like the eye of the storm. And there's a book that I use in this training that I've gotten a lot of my material from, and it's called that, The Eye, letter I, of the Storm, by Gary Chapman. And he talks it, well, we all know, we live in Florida, right? We know what happens in the storm. The storm is swirling, and it's got all of this energy. It's pulling all this stuff around it. But what's in the center of that? Is peace, is that place of calm. So how helpful, how useful would it be for us to be able to, in the times of storm, now we don't want to always be in a storm, but know that when storms come, and they do, that you can be in the center, that you can be the eye of the storm and allow the stuff to swirl around you as you maintain your own sense of peace and calm and being okay. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's easy. How can we? Yeah.
We are peace within ourselves, and
Yeah.
just what is happening today with the world. It's not only here in United States, it's just the world in general.
Yeah.
is going upside down, and I know that the change needs to happen, and I know the chaos needs to happen, and I know that that chaos we're supposed to be the center and hold the peace, but the pain that I feel personally is so deep that I cannot hold it anymore.
Yeah. And see, it's a process, right? This is what we've been doing because we're all moving through it. And we've had some stuff happen here as a center. You know, it's part of why we did the process we did last week, for those of you who were here for our Circle Sunday, which was to allow ourselves to feel those emotions, right? To feel the anger, to feel the sadness, to feel the fear, to feel the despair. And what we did was a group process. Now was the thinking. I hope you realize that, you know, as we did it, as we went through it, that the sharing of that in a communal space somehow makes us feel less alone in our pain, because you realize that everybody has anger, everybody has this deep grief, everybody has their fears about the future. And all we can do, because we can't change it, all we can do is support one another in our pain and do the best that we can here in this moment. Another question.
I'm sorry I missed last week. I'm sorry I missed last week. It sounds something I could have benefited from. But what helps me to know when I go into these emotional storms, there's so much that nature teaches us. The hurricanes have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
They clear the air, they clear pollutants. They get rid of what is dead. And, you know, in these storms I've come to look upon once I thought was negative as opportunities now. You know, what's going on that I need to clear out within my own inner spirit.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. And that is my hope in offering programs like this and why we're doing this together, you know, is that we're all going through it. And sometimes I'm in the depths and I have to call a friend, or I have to go out and take a walk in nature, or I need to go to the beach, or I need to just scream, you know, or write it on a piece of paper and burn it, shred it, whatever. There are constructive ways to do this, and we are going to get into some of this, some of those like specific things in the next couple of weeks. So, yeah, we can't to do all of this, at least the little bit that I know, you know, we'd be sitting here for 3 days, you know, just kind of back to back. So what we do is support one another, pieces at a time. And just keep reaching out to folks, because there are people who are of the same mind and the same heart. And even if we can't fix it all, at least we can hold one another up as we go through it. Yeah, Donna.
It's really, for me, again, the health and the physical health and the mental health and the emotional health all needs to have that team. So that way when you're in the fire moment, and you know the fire moment because you feel like you'll explode, that supernova moment. But I feel that when that moment happens, universes are created.
Absolutely.
And so I just know that each of us that are having those paradigm shifts, it's this moment, and be able to keep your body safe with people who can recognize that you're in the moment and hold you, you know, even if they have to step back and allow you to burn for a moment, you know, but you can come back to community, and that's why we create these communities.
Yeah. Part of the instruction in the Truth Mandala when we did it last week was to not comfort people too much. Do you remember that? Right? It was so they can have the tissue, but don't run to them with the piece of tissue. Don't, you know, hug you. I want to stop you from, because people feel like, oh, you're not comfortable with their pain, and therefore they need to stop so they can't express it. So what Joanna Macy, who came up with this process, she said, you think about it as you're being like a midwife. As a child's being born, the midwife knows, everybody knows there's pain involved. And we're not there to take it away, because we really can't. We can help the person to minimize it. You can do your breathing exercises. You can hold somebody's hand as you're going through it. But we know the pain is part of it. And so just be okay with allowing that pain to go through. And I honor your pain, Maria. I honor it. I feel it. to be a presence, exactly. Sometimes that's all we can do, and maybe that's enough. Maybe that's enough, is to be that presence for someone as they're moving through it. And we're all moving through at different times. Like I said, sometimes I'm up here, sometimes I'm down here, you know? And somehow it all just kind of, eventually I get to this place of like, oh, okay, I can breathe again. I can breathe again. So needs drive behavior. Conflict then and interpersonal difficulties are like a storm system that arises when those two weather fronts converge. And you've got competing needs, wants, and values combined with misperception, defensiveness, and the need to be right. All of that creates an energetic field of influence that is the storm inherent in interpersonal conflict. And I said Gary Chapman, but it was actually Gary Simmons, who is the author of The Eye of the Storm. Chapman is another author. So I think this is probably true of any conflict, not just interpersonal ones, but when we have a conflict within ourselves, maybe it's because of competing needs and values, like the mom that wants to be there with her kids all the time but has to work. You know, there's some competing values, some difficult choices, because we're looking at needs and values that are bumping up against each other. And they may seem like they're incompatible. Now, when you put that out with other people, now you're dealing with other people's needs and other people's values who may be very different than yours, and that's where the conflict happens. Make sense? Makes sense, okay. So, what can we do? What can we do? Then this is, I'm calling this Peacebuilding 101. And this is one of my favorite quotes from Viktor Frankl. Between stimulus and response, right? Between what happens and what we do about it, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in that response is our growth and our freedom. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Between what happens and what you do about it, there is a space. And as conscious creators, we want to acknowledge that space. Most of us, I would say 90% of people, right, ourselves included sometimes, are reacting. What do you mean there's a space between what happens and what I do about it? I just blow up. I just say whatever I need to say. And that's not always the best thing. Not if you want to be at peace yourself or if you want to have peace in your relationships. So the things that we do, the practices that we teach, like anybody have a practice for between that space and response? What happens? Yeah. Say it again in the mic so people can hear you.
I take my time to deep breathing. In the meantime, my mind is working how to act instead of reacting.
Okay, very good. That's exactly what I was going to say. Marcia.
Yes, after the stimulus, when I realize I'm triggered, I try to become the observer, try to step back a little out of the emotion, and so that I have a right thought about and what's going on. So that yeah, lots of stuff needs to happen in that moment, but yeah, you're right. And I try to think before I say something, is it true what I'm going to say? Is it necessary what I'm going to say? Is it kind what I'm going to say? And if it's none of those things, I need to keep my mouth shut unless this is something I'm going through that I need to work out, right then with somebody. But yeah, that's a real important.
Excellent advice.
moment.
Is it, before you say the thing that you're going to say, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And to Lucia's point, I think the first thing is to take that breath. Just take a breath. And sometimes that time between stimulus and response, I'll tell you, we've had, again, something that happened here. And the initial reaction was like fangs, like I want to come out in defense. I become mama bear. And then I realize that's probably not going to help the situation, so let me step back for a minute. And sometimes stepping back is an hour. Sometimes it's 5 minutes. Sometimes it's 5 days. Because it takes a while to respond appropriately. But don't let people push you into making a response that you're not ready to make. Okay? Yeah, Keith.
Hour and a half away from home, no money, no gas. A breaking point, very triggering. Okay? Instead of losing my mind, instantly went to, okay, I need to ground myself. Okay? Walk away. Walk as far as you have to walk. And I went to the edge of the forest on this property and just opened my arms and breathe and ask the universe for an answer. And you will get that answer. But you have to ground yourself. You have to breathe and ask the questions.
Sure.
And it all comes to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave me the freedom to get home that day.
Nice.
Figured it out. Instead of, oh my God, you did this, you did that. And no. Power to choose what your next move is.
It's a great example, Keith. Thank you. Thank you. So when we're in fear, fear is putting you in survival mode. And again, we're going to talk more about emotions next month. But when you're in survival mode, your vision becomes very tunneled. Anybody know that happens for folks, right? You don't see all of the options that are out there. You just see the ones that's going to keep you alive. And sometimes that's not the best. So taking that time to breathe, right, to ground yourself, allows you then to see that there might be some other options that you didn't see when you were in that panic fear mode, because fear doesn't let you see all of your options. Okay, so we don't want to act from fear either. Very, very important. Don't act from fear and don't act from anger. Take the time to calm yourself first. Yeah, go ahead.
So what I wanted to add, Alliance of Divine Love, with which I am a minister, 1708 Chapel, I'm telling you, the thing that made the biggest difference for me was that greatest degree of love. And that love included me. And that piece there, Eddie Watkins Jr. sings about that, what would love do now? So as soon as I can recognize that the thing is happening, because that's the thing, the trigger's happening, you have no clue you're being triggered, you're just responding. But the more you come to the greatest degree of love and you say, wait a minute, what are my needs? Oh, hold on, I'm feeling this. This is how my body is, what's going on? And I start doing my little inner check while this is happening, because that's part of that greatest degree of love. And then I say, okay, I put my mask on first. Take care of myself. Do I need to be safe? Is my body in danger? If that's the case, then now I must go. And I'm out of there. Mm-hmm. Because I can't control what they're doing. I can't even say stop, because are they going to listen to me? Who knows? Who knows? It may make it worse. So I have to secure here first. And then it's all in that pause. And I start here first, oxygen mask first. Now I'm shored up. What can I do to help? How can love help? And it just changes everything. That's that paradigm shift.
Yeah. I love that, Donna. Yes. So in that space between stimulus and response, we breathe, we ground ourselves, right? And ask the question, what would love do now? What would love do? What would Jesus do? Whatever it is that brings you back to presence, you know, if it's what would Jesus do, if that helps you, do that. Everybody's is going to be different. Everybody's is different. What brings you back? What brings you back to presence and peace? Different for everybody. Sure. If you're a Christian, that works.
I love this conversation because it's something that I've been working on. I pick a word of the year, and this year my word was balance through listening. And part of spiritual obedience I learned was it comes from the Latin word obdire, which means listen up close to your heart. To your heart. And I really thought when I was other-centered, feeling responsible for other people's happiness, I wasn't listening to my own heart first, what I needed. And so I think this pausing that you're talking about is really, has made a qualitative difference in helping me to listen to what's really going on. I think everybody's talked about it. And different words, as Marcia said, to pause and because it's who I am. The great I am. You talk about conscious awareness. Great I am, and I am are one in terms of my spiritual beliefs, and I am love, and listening to how I can love myself first is really a sacred act, and it requires, for that homeostatic physical process we have of always in movement for balance. I think that's what's so paradoxical. We have to stop and pause.
Right. And you know, there's movement in the pause. For those of
Yes.
you who've done the Tai Chi, even just standing still, right, to get balance, you realize how much motion is happening even in just the simple thing of standing in one place. It's really quite amazing. So it is very paradoxical that we have to take care of ourselves to be able to take care of others. Super, super important. And sometimes it's not your moment, right? Sometimes it is not your moment to go into the fray. Sometimes the greatest degree of love is for you to step back, breathe, collect yourself, right? Let go of whatever emotion you need to let go of so that you can then come back from a place that is more centered and stronger, right? And more clear and more clear. So there's some other stuff that happens in that space, right? In that space between what happens and what we do about it. Has anybody heard this term, the ladder of inference? This is a really fun one. Okay. So we start with the ladder of inference when this potential for conflict, things go wrong, whatever. Something happens, right? There's the observable reality. Like, remember the behavior that you can see of people, the outward stuff, not knowing what's going on the inside? There's observable reality. And then something happens and we select the data. Let me just go through it here. We select the data, then we interpret and we add meaning to the thing that is happening. And then we make some assumptions about what we're seeing. And then we draw conclusions, right? The thing happens. All of this stuff is kind of happening, right? Draw conclusions that either form or reinforce our beliefs, which then brings us back to how we filter data. I'm doing it the wrong way. And then we take action. Okay, let me give you a real simple example of this ladder of inference. Was about to turn 40, my 40th birthday. Now, my husband and I aren't really super big gift givers. It's not our particular love language, but it was 40. It was a big deal, right? So I make sure that I tell him over days and days about my birthday, just kind of reminding him that it's my birthday. So the observable reality is October 9th, whatever year that was, of my 20th birthday. I wake up in the morning and I'm expecting something, a gift, an acknowledgement of something, and there was nothing. It was like every other day. The observable reality was I didn't get the birthday thing that I thought I was going to get. So I'm filtering data. This man that I married, who doesn't know how to shop for a gift, I have to do all of this. Like, I'm filtering through that thing of this is how he always is. And really not cool of him to not remember on my 40th birthday when I've been telling him over and over again. So I then interpret and add some meaning. Can anybody else think what meaning I might be adding? He's a jerk. He doesn't care about me. Like, what? How could he do this to me? I make assumptions. You know that he doesn't love me. Neither do my kids, for that matter, because they didn't say anything either. And then you draw conclusions, right? Nobody loves me. How important am I? It's freaking 40 years old. You'd think somebody would acknowledge it. And what did that do? Reinforce all of those beliefs of not being good enough, of not being cared for, of not being loved, like all of that stuff. Poor me. And what actions do you think I took that day? Yeah, what behaviors? What was on the tip of that iceberg that my family saw? Some anger, yes, a little anger, a little snippiness, a little bit of attitude, right? Until I went to my parents' house that evening, And there was a big surprise party, and everybody was there. And my husband was the leader of the pack, and my kids were all in on it, and everybody knew what was going on, except me, right? So that's what we call the ladder of inference. The thing happens, and then there's all that stuff, right? You're pulling out the data, you're adding meaning, you're making assumptions, you come to a conclusion that reinforces what you already believe or gives you some other horrible belief, right? And then you take action. Now, what are people seeing? Maybe the observable, right? And then the action. And where did all that other stuff happen? In your head. Was it all true? Not in my case, none of it was, right? None of it was true. Not necessarily. Sometimes it is, but hey, sometimes it's not. And how can we know, especially when we're making up stuff about other people? Exactly, exactly. And as I said, I had this woman, I've been sharing this stuff for years, and this one woman looked at this and said, oh my gosh, I just realized the only exercise I ever get is jumping to conclusions. As I do it all the time. And how many of us do? Right? I share that birthday from my 40s because since that happened, I really don't do this like I used to. I probably still do a little bit, but mostly I pull it back. I don't make those assumptions anymore because I've been wrong. I've been wrong so many times, and we can't know what someone else's heart or what they're thinking about or what's going on for them. Yes?
I can't help it. When you're hitting on something, I'm giggling to myself because I had a therapist said to me, oh, are you a psychic? I said, no, I'm not a psychic. Are you a medium? No. She said, but you do a lot of mind reading. In other words, I fill in what I don't know she had to be, that's why she did it, and it's so hard to not jump into those assumptions. That's another way of saying it. Yeah.
Yes, we are wired for it.
You
We are
want
wired
to know
for
what
it.
happened with me? When I noticed that it was going to be because I opened my eyes in the morning and my husband didn't mention a thing, I said, darling, you forgot that my birthday today because I didn't want to escalate so much. He said, no, I didn't. I was hoping you say something. That's not the truth. But that's how I prepared for not escalating into a big thing.
Excellent, excellent. You're smarter than I was at 40. So our experiences then are mirrors and metaphors that serve as a feedback loop regarding the meaning that we're giving circumstances. I was quite surprised and more than a little embarrassed. But of course you feel guilty because, I knew that I misjudged and I made assumptions, right? So here's the thing, though, for all of us, our experiences, especially the ones that are coming back around, anything that, been here before, there's an opportunity in that to see what is life trying to tell me. It's not about somebody else. It's not about the circumstance. It's not about the thing out there. It is something for you to look at and say, what's going on in here? Why am I experiencing this again? There's a lesson for me in this. And while it may be painful and you have all of that stuff going through it, that's the yuck, right? That's the firefighting. Going through the fire is the yuck, is the pain, is the anger, the heavy feelings, the emotions of it. But on the other side of that is the freedom, right? Then you know that, oh, wow, that whole story that I've been telling myself is just that. It's a story. It's not the truth. And you come back to the truth. So Don Miguel Ruiz says it this way, don't make assumptions. Who said, yeah, what you were saying, don't make assumptions. I think it's the third one of the 4 agreements. Find courage to ask questions and express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstanding, sadness, and drama. With just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. Instead of assuming that you know what somebody else is about, what they're thinking, what's in their iceberg, like all of that stuff. Hang back, take that moment between stimulus and response and just breathe for a moment, right? And find a better way, the better way to handle it. And there's always going to be a better way than raging, right? Telling somebody off. I'm going to give them a piece of my mind, the fight, like all of that stuff, the defensiveness. It doesn't work as well as actual listening. And then I like this slide too. Transform your experience by choosing to reframe what you see. So when that thing happens, when that thing that feels like, oh my gosh, this is like the end of the world, the end of my ministry, the end of whatever, there's a reframe. No, there's an opportunity for something better to come out of this. And I personally, I am just always determined to make the most of my pain. Like, I'm not going to let the pain use me up. I use the pain to bring me to something higher, something better, right? Don't waste it. Don't waste it. Your phoenix is rising. Your phoenix is rising, right? We don't get stuck. We don't camp out, to your point, Cheryl. We don't camp out in the pain. We acknowledge it. We feel it. This is a little bit different maybe than what you hear in a lot of New Thought churches that are saying deny, right? We deny. And to me, that's spiritual bypass. And there are some things that, in fact, you can't deny. You can't deny, because when the roof has a hole in it and you deny it, it just gets worse. You have to address the things that are in front of you. You don't get to go around it. I'm sorry. But you put on your big girl pants or your big boy undies and you go in it. But you go with this understanding of who you are and who others are, and this idea of what people's needs are, and helping to get those needs met. Right? Your own and others. I did that needs exercise in a group of educators with teachers. And when we asked, she's like, oh my gosh, you mean my needs count? And she was literally in tears, thinking her whole life is about taking care of other people and making sure that their needs are met. Who takes care of hers? Right? She realized, well, you know what? I need to take care of my own. I need to take care of my needs. Right? That's true for all of us as adults. All of us adults. We take care of our kids when they're itty bitties. And then there's a point where we have to take care of our own needs. It's incumbent on us to do that. And we do that before we reach out, like everywhere else. Yes, Elaine.
So I would ask the question that, what is your reference point, or what is your advice, if you will, for people learning to understand more about themselves? I think the ills of the world are caused by misunderstanding. And ultimately what I'm hearing here is that the understanding has to start with understanding oneself.
Yeah.
So what tools would you provide for people who are beginning the process of self-understanding?
Okay, great question. I think one of the first things is acknowledging that we don't know everything about ourselves even. So many people are walking around like, they know all there is to know. And aren't you lucky to be in their presence? Right? There are people like that. And usually they're the ones that need to learn the most, right? So even the simple acknowledgement that, oh wow, maybe I don't know everything, and be open, right, to some coaching or to some self-discovery. And I think it's different for different people. I personally use writing, like journaling, I think is a great exercise to just get it down on paper, and you start to see maybe the patterns in yourself, or ask those questions. You go into your own meditation and ask the question of yourself in meditation that you want to know. Ask your higher self, what is it that I'm supposed to be learning from this situation? But writing for me is an excellent thing. Taking time in the quiet. A lot of us don't like to do that. Or even know, because there's that constant chatter that's going on in your head. But somebody else said it over here. We pray, but we don't get quiet enough to hear the answers. So doing the kinds of things that take you out of ordinary reality, repetitive motions. People used to knit or crochet. That was something people did with their hands. I think that just kind of put them in another space. You're not thinking about it. or maybe your thing is dancing, you know, to music, drumming. I know Donna drums. But people do different things. It's art. Art is another wonderful way. Creativity, painting. All of the things that used to be like electives in school, think about those things that you may have enjoyed doing artwork, writing, physical activity. Those kinds of things can very much help regulate your nervous system. And when your mind is calm, the answers kind of can pop in, right? Or you also, I mean, another great thing is to just have your people, your friends. And if you have somebody in your life that you can ask that is going to tell you the truth, not what you want to hear or what they think you want to hear, and be ready to hear the answer. Because all of this work takes courage. I'm going to say that too. All of it takes courage. It takes courage to speak, but it also takes courage to listen. Right? Yes.
There's one thing I recognized about a month ago is that word nervous system. Whoever thought of that?
What's that?
The word nervous system.
Yeah.
We accept it.
Right.
You just accepted we have a nervous system.
Uh-huh.
Isn't that nuts? Why don't we call it a calm system?
Sure.
Like, our words are so
Right.
powerful. Let's stop nervous system.
Yeah.
That's insanity to me. Who
Right.
did that?
Yeah.
Let's go for calm system.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it, you know. It, yeah, the language that we use. The language that we use. Mm-hmm. Right, right. It makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah. So like at work, right, you get sick days. Why don't we get wellness days? Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? Then you don't have to wait to be sick to take a day off when you need it. Wouldn't that be nice? Or have to tell a fib like, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I love the creative process that we learn here because it starts with the spirit and then it's the mind and then the body. By the time it shows up in the body, it's a little late because it's already gone through all that filter. So it's just recognizing that the physical is going to show us and then having those safe people who can say, wait a minute, I notice your, oh, yep, that's that primal self in charge of that body right now. I can tell because your behaviors are showing it to me. And so now you can do that little check-in and calm that whole thing down. And for me, I just made friends with my primal self instead of trying to kill our ego. I don't know who came up with that, like you said, about that. Why not make friends with it? Because it's trying to tell us something. And then listen to it. And then maybe like Frozen, that movie where the little guy was on fire and everybody, it was burning down the village, you know, and just her calmness just, boop, and the fire went out. Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you know, we don't have control over other people, right? What anybody else does or says, we have no control. The only place we have any control is right here. And this is where your world is happening, right? Is right here. So whether you call it your nervous system, your calm system, and it does both. You know that, right? It does both. It's not just here to get you worked up. It's also what brings us back down. Understanding how to work with that system, whatever you call it, is really vital to peace building within ourselves. Yes.
I just want to reiterate something you brought that started this reframing. And you hit on it too, but it's a tool that I use, reframing in truth. And as I got older, I realized that I needed another word, and that word was compassion. I need to reframe in truth with compassion. And it's because a professor of linguistics who was a Buddhist nun told me the power of words. She said words have a history, they have a life of their own. It's important for us to understand that they're symbols of thoughts, and thoughts carry energy, the ability to empower or disempower us. So the words that we say to ourselves are the most important words of all. Yeah. And as long as we're being honest to the best of our ability, and I speak when I get an uncomfortable situation or I feel hurt, when I'm able to pause, because I was very reactionary in my youth, but by pausing, now I say, what does my true self saying to me, now that I have these tools of compassion and truth, now is the time. Maybe there's a psychic lesion, a tentacle from the past, that now I have the maturity and the ego strength to heal within with the words and knowledge that I have now. So I've come to look at my negative experiences no longer as negative. I said, these are opportunities for me to learn how to love myself. Because, and I think you brought it up about our bodies. Neuroscience told us through neuroplasticity, everything we've experienced in life is part of our brains. And all those memories are stored there, so it's easy to trigger something. And when it comes so uninvited, that can still be an opportunity to be kind to ourselves and know that often they were just coping mechanisms that we, pass down from generation to generation, usually ignorance.
Yeah.
And I don't mean it in a derogatory way, just
Sure,
not knowing.
just not knowing.
Just
Right.
not knowing.
Just not knowing.
That's why I feel so lucky today that I'm getting to know myself.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Oh,
and the
beautiful
more
share.
I do that, I'm less judgmental of others. It's not. I used to work at trying not to be judgmental, but I found that if I'm not judgmental with myself, I don't work as hard
Yeah.
in accepting others.
I find that's been the truth for me too, is that it seems like the people who hold the most judgment of others are toughest on themselves. We don't always see that part, but very often that's true, is that their worst judgments are about themselves, and it's what spills over into all of their relationships. So I'm going to go ahead and close out with this, because we're at time, with this from Eric Butterworth, who is a great New Thought teacher. He says, your most important asset is the conscious control of your own life. Nothing can satisfy or fulfill unless you enjoy the freedom that comes from control of your inner world of mind and emotions. Right? Again, we have no control over anybody else. The only place we have control is right here. So say good things. Yes, say good things to yourself. And we are limited by our language. Right? Because we have this word love that we use for so many things. I love my grandchildren. I love pizza. I love my house. I love my ministry. All of those things we say, but they mean very different things, don't they? Don't they? So there are languages where they have more words for love, just like we have one word for snow. People in the indigenous people in Alaska, I think, had over 100 words for snow. Did you know that? And they all mean different things, because that is such a part of their life. We should have many words for love that can help us convey what this really means. And maybe that's part of our revolution. Maybe that's part of what is happening now, is new ways of saying things and not identifying with our nervous system, but our calm system. Or why we have departments of war and not a department of peace. It's these are the things that we need to be looking at. Yes, grand rising. Right, exactly. So we think about these things. And who better than a room full of people who know that they are conscious creators? Right? That's who we are in this movement, as compared to other people who are still feeling like they're victims of life. Right? I don't want you feeling like you're a victim of your experience. Know that you are powerful beyond measure. Powerful beyond measure. And certainly at controlling at least what is happening in your own experience. So own it. Okay? All right, so with that, we close this section of what we're doing today. And I'll go into, I think we're going to pass on that just in terms of time, because we did a lot of questions in between. Are we good? Feeling complete? All right, I feel complete. So this is the opportunity for us to celebrate our abundance. And yes, it's really, really important. Really important. Yeah. All right, I'm going to ask that we say this affirmation together in celebrating our abundance, if you're up for that. It is the nature of life to give of itself, As it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom, it is my nature to share the gifts of my time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am grateful. And so it is, and so it is. All right. And so, I'm sorry, Sam has got our prayer requests in here. So if anyone has anything that they're praying on that they would really like a little extra prayer support, get one of those requests and put it in the basket. And Aaron's also got prayer requests. Yes. And envelopes, if you want to put your donation inside of the envelope, that would be wonderful. You can give via text to Tithe. That number is 352-320-5110, or donate at cslocala.org. And when you set up that text message in your phone, it's real easy. You just put the amount of money that you want to send us, and it goes right from your account to ours. And we really, really appreciate it. Sir, and just some news for you all. It hasn't been in our newsletter, and actually we just kind of found out. We have not had a renter here. We had a renter all of last year. That was a significant part of the income that came into the center. And we are no longer meeting our financial needs here. So I'm just going to ask, and there'll be more on that report maybe at our next, after our board meeting, as we come to some decisions and, some plans for what we can do. But I'm just going to ask that you be extra generous and help us out so we can make our bills and keep the lights on and all that good stuff at the center. Appreciate you. And so it is, and we're just knowing that this community is in fact very generous, and that we not be in a situation of financial need anymore. All right, you ready? So we're going to pray on this? All right. All right, so we just take a moment, give thanks for all that's been given here, for all that's been shared today, for the messages, for the hope, for the joy, for the camaraderie and the sense of community. I'm just grateful for all of it. And I'm grateful for our prayer requests, both for those who made them and for those who will be praying over them, knowing that the answer to each and every prayer already exists in the mind of spirit, and that all of circumstances are resolving for their highest and best in this very moment. And I affirm the well-being of each and every one here. I affirm the well-being of this center in every way. And I'm just grateful for each and every one, knowing that all of us are a light in our individual worlds. And I just affirm that that light shines brighter and brighter and brighter. Releasing these words with joy and gratitude, knowing it's already done. And so it is. Thank you. All right. So Science of Mind bookstore, it's out there in the little vestibule. If you want to get your magazine, this would be a great time to do it. Newsletter, we didn't have an actual newsletter in July, but hopefully you're at least seeing what events are happening, because we're having some cool stuff here. And so we'll have to find out why that's not happening. We had a tech glitch, so I don't know if maybe your name got lost during that time when that happened. I'm not liking that. I know, I don't like that either. All right, so this is next weekend, what is happening here. It's the 5th Sunday. Okay. Yes. Print your name on our list if you didn't hear. 1 second. Yes, okay, great. So next Sunday, just want to tell you what's going on next Sunday. We're having kind of a fair. We've called it the Prism Fair, though it's going to be a little bit different this time. What we're doing is exploring that intersection between spirituality, technology, and wellness. And we've got a gentleman here, Quantum Chris, who's got all kinds of fun stuff with virtual reality and mixed reality and things that are going to be happening inside and outside. And it is mind-blowing. Have you done it? I'm seeing your face. So much fun. Oh, wow, wow. Well, I've got a device that uses light and sound to help it train your nervous system again, to experience really deep meditative states and psychedelic states without substances. And when you do, the virtual reality is really amazing for those of you who've never done it, like literally immersive experience of being in another world. And it does wonders for the body and for the mind. So there will be lots of fun things. He's going to have a whole science table set up for the kids, and we'll have a food truck. It's just going to be a fun day from 11 to 2 next Sunday. We've got, before I go to the next thing, because I was just reminded, we've got some stuff here that's for a fundraiser. If anybody wants to bid on the silent auction, just some paintings there and some nice things. So take a look at it. And that fundraiser is for our group that is going to the Posse Music concert in Kansas City in September. Parenting class next weekend from 4 to 6. The facilitator is awesome. I know a couple of you have attended pretty regularly. It's wonderful. She happens to be my daughter-in-law, but she's great. You had your hand up, Karen? Uh-huh. Gotcha. For those that may not have heard it, there are lists, kind of descriptions for all of the items that are on the auction table. Make sure you put your name and your phone number so that we can reach you when the auction is done, know how to get a hold of you. Thank you, Karen. Let's see. House concert with Your Phoenix is Rising with Amy Steinberg, week of July 12th. And bake sale. Yes, Marcia? I'm going to do the facilitator class in the fall. Yeah, and what I'm trying to do is give some stuff, like in between, that we're doing a lot of the stuff. In between. Good. I'm so glad it was helpful. Very good. So fundraiser that weekend, Amy will be here doing the lesson July 13th. Then we have foundations class starting in August. And we're still looking for a bookkeeper. It'd be really wonderful if someone from the community who's familiar with QuickBooks could help us with that. Phenomenal. It would be nice to have that elevated consciousness of abundance. That would be also wonderful. Our Green Guardians, this is for folks that want to volunteer outside with our landscape and with our garden. That is also wonderful therapy. Wonderful therapy to be out in the garden and watching things grow and seeing how life takes care of itself. Wonderful thing. More volunteer opportunities all around. We've got even cleaning, setting up, taking down, the kids. So many opportunities here. Yes, Keith. Uh-huh.
As far as the bake sale goes for the fundraiser, are we accepting outside donations for baked goods to sell for us?
I guess
Okay,
that's
so
a yes.
anybody in the community that's willing to bake a dish and donate to the cause?
That would be great.
Okay.
Yes. So if you're bringing something for the bake
If
sale.
you bake something for the bake sale, if you could please write down a list of ingredients so that folks know what's in it, just in case allergies.
All right.
Oh, also one more announcement. The CPR class for today that was scheduled for today had to be canceled. Unfortunately, the last thunderstorm affected Dave, so we're going to just send prayers his way for his equipment. So he had to unfortunately cancel, but we will be scheduling it again, so just look on out for it, okay?
All
Thank
right.
you.
Do you want to offer a blessing to our children? You hardly knew there were any here.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Oh, let it shine, shine, every day. Shine, shine, you know you want to. Shine, shine.
All right. right. So we have a special visitor today. It's not his first time, but this is my grandson, Grady. This is little G. Say hi, everybody. Yes. Oh, and our girls. So you want to send them a little love? Oh, she's shy today. Okay. Well, maybe it's just too much. Too much. You want to send them a little love? All right. We love to send her. Love to send our little people some love. We're going to send you some love. How about that? And we say, we honor you. We see your light. May it shine on all that you do. And so it is. And then we do ourselves, okay? And we say for ourselves, we honor you. See your light. May it shine on all that you do. So it is. Mwah. All right, and we'll close out with our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so it is. Have a fabulous week, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being here. That's all, folks.